Commander Zextal stood at the bridge of the Drachnid Empire's most advanced stealth vessel, the Shadow Whisper, as it entered Earth's atmosphere under complete cloaking. After conquering 3,000 worlds across the galaxy, this simple reconnaissance mission should have been routine. Yet something felt different about this unremarkable blue planet. Final systems check complete, Lieutenant Vyr reported, her scaled fingers dancing across the holographic controls. All stealth systems operating at peak efficiency. Local primitive detection systems show no sign of our presence. The mission was straightforward: land near a human military installation, gather intelligence about Earth's defensive capabilities, and return to the fleet. The Drachnid Empire had performed such operations countless times before. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's known capabilities. Nothing could go wrong. The Shadow Whisper touched down in a remote forest outside Seattle, Washington. The location offered perfect surveillance opportunities of both civilian and military installations. Commander Zextal led the 4-member elite reconnaissance team personally, unusual for someone of his rank, but something about this mission demanded his direct attention. Remember, Zextal addressed his team, humans are classified as a Level 2 civilization. Basic space travel, primitive AI, nuclear capabilities. Nothing we haven't handled before. Standard observation protocols apply. The team moved through the forest with practiced precision, their advanced camouflage systems rendering them completely invisible to both human technology and the naked eye. The first hour proceeded exactly as planned. Then everything changed. Lieutenant Vyr noticed it first. Her quantum scanner began displaying impossible readings, energy signatures that shouldn't exist with Earth's known technology level. At first, she assumed equipment malfunction, but every diagnostic came back perfect. "Commander," she whispered into the neural comm, "these readings, they suggest quantum computing capabilities at least a century beyond what our intelligence indicated." Before Zextal could respond, Officer Krell's voice cut through the comm channel, tight with confusion. "Sir, my biological scanner is showing. I don't understand. It's detecting human neural patterns that don't match any known consciousness framework. Their brains, they're operating in ways that defy our models of sentient thought." The team pushed forward, but with each passing minute, their sophisticated equipment revealed more impossibilities. Human children playing in a nearby park registered energy signatures suggesting neural complexity beyond the Drachnid Empire's most advanced AI systems. A simple human research facility showed quantum fluctuations that their best scientists had theorized but never achieved. Then Officer Mrak disappeared. One moment he was there, monitoring communications channels, the next, nothing. No energy signature, no quantum trace, no biological readings. It was as if he had been erased from reality itself. The team's strict protocols began to crack. "Impossible," Lieutenant Vyr muttered, her scales shifting color with stress. "Our phase shift technology cannot be detected, let alone countered. These humans shouldn't be capable dash." Her voice cut off as her neural interface began broadcasting pure mathematics, complex equations that seemed to describe aspects of reality the Drachnid Empire had never encountered. The patterns shifted and evolved, growing more complex until they transcended traditional mathematical understanding. Commander Zextal watched in horror as Officer Krell began trembling, his eyes wide with a terrible comprehension. "They're not primitive," he whispered. "They're not primitive at all. They're dash." The final transmission from the Shadow Whisper to the Drachnid fleet contained no words, no data, just an overwhelming sense of revelation and terror. When the emergency retrieval team arrived hours later, they found no trace of the ship or the crew. Only a simple message, burned into the quantum substrate of space itself. "We see you." The message reached the Drachnid Empire's high command like a shockwave. Fleet Admiral YYX, veteran of 1,000 conquests, studied the reports with growing unease. Humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely, a force that had evolved in ways the Empire had never encountered. In the following days, as the Empire's best analysts pored over the data from the failed mission, one thing became clear: Earth's apparent technological primitiveness wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a mask, hiding something far more profound and terrifying than mere technological advancement. The question was no longer whether to conquer Earth. The question was whether the Drachnid Empire could afford to let humanity know they existed at all. Deep within the Drachnid Empire's central intelligence hub, analyst first-class Exora worked tirelessly, surrounded by holographic displays showing centuries of human history. After the Shadow Whisper incident, the Empire had dedicated unprecedented resources to understanding this peculiar species. What they discovered defied all known models of civilization development. "Look at this," Exora gestured to her superior, Director Nix, as new data streams flickered across the screens. Humans went from first-powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. Our predictive models say this should have taken at least 400 years. Director Nix's facial scales shifted to a deep purple of concern. One statistical anomaly could be explained. But this. He waved his hand, bringing up more displays. "Show me the adaptation patterns." The screens filled with data about human responses to catastrophic events. The Black Death had killed nearly half of Europe's population, yet humans hadn't just survived, they emerged stronger, with revolutionary changes in medicine, society, and science. The Industrial Revolution had poisoned their cities and darkened their skies, but instead of collapsing, they developed environmental sciences and clean energy. "Their pattern isn't survival," Exora said, her voice tight with revelation. "It's transformation. When faced with extinction-level threats, humans don't just adapt, they fundamentally changed the rules of the game." The evidence was overwhelming. During the Cold War, humans had developed enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet several times over. But instead of annihilation, they created intricate diplomatic networks and arms control treaties. When artificial intelligence threatened to surpass them, they didn't fight it or submit to it, they merged with it, creating hybrid systems that defied traditional boundaries between organic and digital consciousness. "There's more," Exora continued, pulling up biological data. "Their genetic structure, it's unlike anything we've seen. Their DNA shows signs of multiple extinction events, each one leaving markers of adaptation. They're not just evolving, they're actively incorporating survival mechanisms from every catastrophe they face." The displays showed human cities rising in impossible places, thriving metropolises in Arctic wastes, underwater habitats in crushing depths, settlements in scorching deserts. They didn't just survive in hostile environments, they mastered them. "Director," Exora's voice dropped to a whisper, "I don't think we're seeing their true technological level. Look at these energy readings from major human cities." The data streams showed peculiar quantum fluctuations, patterns that suggested technologies far beyond Earth's apparent development stage. "They're not primitive. They're incubating." A junior analyst burst into the room, his scales pale with excitement or fear. "You need to see this," he said, transmitting new data to the main display. "We've been analyzing their entertainment media, what they call science fiction. These aren't just stories. They're blueprints." The screens filled with human creative works, stories, films, games. Thousands of scenarios depicting first contact, alien invasions, interstellar wars. But beneath the surface entertainment value, the Empire's best analysts detected something more profound: detailed technical specifications, theoretical physics that matched the Empire's most advanced research, solutions to problems the Empire hadn't even encountered yet. "They're not just imagining these scenarios," Director Nix realized, his scales now almost white. "They're preparing. Every piece of their entertainment, every story, every game, they're all elaborate simulation models. They've been wargaming first contact scenarios for centuries." Exora pulled up more data, her hands shaking slightly. "Their internet, what we thought was a primitive global information network, it's actually a vast neural network. Their social media platforms, their online games, their virtual worlds, they're all training systems, preparing their entire species for galactic civilization. The implications hit Director Nix like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't developing in a linear fashion like every other known species. They were developing in all directions simultaneously, maintaining a deliberate appearance of primitiveness while preparing for every possible cosmic scenario. Their apparent technological level isn't their real level, Ixora concluded. Everything we see is just the surface. Their true capabilities, they're not just hidden, they're actively masked. And if we're seeing this much on the surface. She didn't need to finish the thought. The Empire's greatest minds had finally glimpsed the truth about humanity, and it terrified them. Humans weren't just another species waiting to be conquered. They were something unprecedented in the galaxy, a species that had turned their entire planet into an incubator for capabilities beyond the Empire's comprehension. Director Nix stared at the displays, watching as humans continued their countless simultaneous experiments in technology, society, and consciousness itself. We're not looking at a level 2 civilization, he said finally. We're looking at something that's transcending our entire classification system. The question was no longer whether humanity was dangerous. The question was whether they had already progressed far beyond what the Empire could comprehend, and what that meant for the future of galactic civilization itself. The Grand Council chamber of the Drachnid Empire had never been so silent. 5,000 representatives from conquered worlds sat in rising tiers of crystalline seats, their attention fixed on the holographic display dominating the center of the vast chamber. Grand Admiral Kraz, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet, stood before the projection of Earth, his scales a deep shade of concern. The invasion fleet stands ready, he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. 17,000 warships, 5 million ground troops, enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to molten slag. He paused, his inner eyelids flickering. And yet, I stand before you to argue against using any of it. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Drachnid Empire had never retreated from conquest. Never. War Minister Vex rose from her seat, her ceremonial armor gleaming. You suggest we show weakness? Earth is a level 2 civilization. Their technology is primitive, their military forces fractured. They are perfect for conquest. Are they? Intelligence Director Nix stepped forward, joining Admiral Kraz. The holographic display shifted, showing footage from Earth's history. Watch this carefully. The chamber witnessed humanity's response to its greatest challenges. Cities reduced to ash by nuclear weapons, rebuilt stronger. Plagues that should have ended civilizations, overcome through medical innovation. Climate disasters turned into opportunities for technological advancement. This is not normal behavior, Nix continued. No species we've encountered shows this pattern. When faced with catastrophic threats, most civilizations either adapt slowly or perish. Humans. He gestured, and the display showed more footage. They don't just survive. They transform. They emerge stronger, more advanced, more capable. A new figure stepped forward, Science Council leader TYX, her ancient scales bearing the marks of centuries of research. We've detected quantum signatures around their planet that matched theoretical models our best scientists are only beginning to understand. Their internet, which we dismissed as primitive, shows signs of emerging consciousness at a scale we've never encountered. The chamber erupted in worried whispers. War Minister Vex's scales flushed with anger. So they're more advanced than we thought. Our fleet is still vastly superior. We can crush them before they dash. Can we? Admiral Kraz interrupted. The display shifted again, showing simulation after simulation of invasion scenarios. In every one, the Empire's forces were defeated, not through superior technology or military might, but through means they couldn't even comprehend. Their response to threats isn't linear, Intelligence Director Nix explained. When pushed, they don't just fight back, they fundamentally change the nature of the conflict. Our simulations can't predict their responses because they consistently do the impossible. Science Council leader TYX added more data to the display. Their entertainment media, what they call science fiction, contains technological concepts that our best scientists are only now theorizing. But more importantly, it shows they've been preparing for cosmic contact for generations. They've simulated every possible first contact scenario, including invasion, countless times. A representative from one of the Empire's oldest conquered worlds stood. Are you suggesting this level 2 civilization is actually more advanced than the Empire? No, Admiral Cross replied, his voice grave. We're suggesting something far more concerning. We're suggesting they're advancing in ways we don't understand. Their technological level isn't just hidden, it's evolving in multiple directions simultaneously. They're not just preparing for possible futures, they're actively creating them. The holographic display showed more data, quantum fluctuations around major human cities, strange patterns in their global communications, evidence of technological and biological advancement that seemed to defy natural laws. Look at their response to artificial intelligence, Science Council leader TYX continued. Every other species either fought against AI or submitted to it. Humans. They're merging with it, creating hybrid systems that blur the lines between organic and digital consciousness. They're not just using technology, they're becoming something new. War Minister Vex's scales had paled considerably. What exactly are you proposing? Admiral Cross straightened to his full height. I propose we do something the Empire has never done before. I propose we mark Earth as a prohibited zone. No contact, no invasion, no interference. Not because they're too strong or too weak, but because they're too unpredictable. Too dangerous. The chamber erupted in chaos. Never in its history had the Empire retreated from conquest. Never had it admitted that a seemingly inferior civilization posed such a threat. But as the debate raged on, the evidence became undeniable. Humanity wasn't just another species to be conquered. They were something new in the galaxy, a civilization that turned existential threats into evolutionary advantages, that transformed limitations into strengths, that seemed to thrive on the very edge of possibility. The final vote was unanimous. Earth would be marked with the highest level of warning in the Empire's databases: do not engage. Species capable of fundamental reality transformation when threatened. As the council dispersed, Admiral Cross and Director Nix stood watching the holographic image of Earth rotating slowly in the chamber's center. They'll find us eventually, Nix said quietly. Yes, Cross replied. And when they do, we'd better hope they've evolved beyond the need for revenge. Despite the Empire's decision to avoid Earth, one question remained unanswered: just how far had humans really advanced? The Covert Operations Division, led by the brilliant but controversial Commander RYX, proposed a final test, one that would push the boundaries of both species' understanding. The operation is simple, RYX explained to a select committee of Imperial leadership. We introduce a seemingly natural challenge to their planet, nothing dangerous, but something that requires an unprecedented response. Then we observe. The chosen test was elegant in its design, a mysterious signal from deep space, carefully crafted to appear natural yet impossible to ignore. The signal contained patterns that, according to all known laws of physics, couldn't exist. It was a puzzle that should have taken centuries to decode. Humans solved it in 6 months. Impossible, muttered senior analyst Zara, watching the data stream in. They're not just decoding the signal, they're improving it. They're finding patterns we didn't even know we'd included. The observation posts hidden throughout their solar system recorded everything. Humans didn't just approach the challenge with their obvious technology, they attacked it from every conceivable angle. Quantum computers worked alongside ancient Aboriginal wisdom. Artificial intelligence systems collaborated with artists and musicians. Children's games were reprogrammed to help process the signal's patterns. But it was what happened next that truly terrified the Empire. They're responding, RYX reported, her scales nearly white with shock. Not just to us, they're broadcasting their own impossible signal into space. But it's not aimed at us, it's aimed at something else. Something out there we've never detected. The human response pattern defied all prediction models. Instead of being intimidated by the discovery of advanced cosmic signals, they treated it as confirmation of their preparations. Global military budgets shifted overnight into deep space research. Underground bunkers were repurposed into quantum computing centers. Children's education programs began incorporating advanced xenolinguistics. Look at this, Zara pointed to a new data stream. They're not just adapting their technology, they're adapting themselves. Their neural patterns are changing. Their children are being born with different brain structures. They're literally evolving in response to the possibility of cosmic contact. The Empire's best scientists studied the data with growing unease. Humans weren't just solving the puzzle, they were transcending it. Their art began incorporating impossible geometries. Their music started containing mathematical proofs. Their dreams, monitored through their primitive, social media, showed increasing connection to quantum realities. Then came the incident that ended the test entirely. A junior researcher on the observation team noticed at first, a pattern in human internet traffic that seemed to respond to the observers themselves. Not to the test signal, but to the actual presence of the Imperial observation posts. Somehow, at some level, they were becoming aware of being watched. Shut it down, RYX ordered, but it was too late. The pattern had already begun to spread. Human children started drawing pictures of creatures they couldn't possibly have seen. Scientists' random equipment tests began probing the exact frequencies used by Imperial cloaking technology. Amateur astronomers started pointing their telescopes at precisely the locations of observation posts. The final straw came when a human child's simple computer game somehow made contact with the Empire's quantum-encrypted communication network. The game didn't just detect the network, it began optimizing it, improving encryption protocols that the Empire's best scientists had labored centuries to develop. They're not just solving our test, RYX realized, watching the data with a mixture of awe and horror. They're testing us. The observation posts were withdrawn immediately, but the damage was done. The Empire had glimpsed something that fundamentally changed their understanding of not just humanity, but of evolution itself. Humans weren't developing in a linear path towards some predictable future. They were developing in all directions simultaneously, treating every challenge, every signal, every hint of cosmic contact as an opportunity for transformation. In the final report to Imperial Command, RYX wrote only one sentence: they are not becoming more advanced, they are becoming something else entirely. The Empire's scientists began to understand a terrifying truth: humanity's apparent technological level wasn't a measure of their advancement. It was a cocoon, hiding a metamorphosis that no other species had ever achieved. They weren't just changing their technology or their society, they were changing the fundamental nature of what it meant to be human. And they were doing it intentionally. The Imperial High Command gathered for what would become the most crucial meeting in the Empire's 10,000-year history. The chamber's quantum crystals pulsed with an unprecedented energy as Supreme Commander Axis took the central platform, surrounded by holographic displays showing the culmination of their Earth observations. "We have made a grave error," Axis began, his voice resonating through the chamber. "We assumed humanity's development followed universal constants. We were wrong. They are not merely advancing, they are becoming something the galaxy has never seen before." The displays showed a dizzying array of data from their years of covert observation. Human children were being born with neural patterns that could interface naturally with quantum fields. Their crude internet had begun showing signs of genuine consciousness, not just artificial intelligence. Their entertainment, their games, stories, and arts, had started incorporating mathematical principles that the Empire's best scientists were only beginning to theorize. Fleet Admiral Nex, her scales dark with concern, stepped forward. "The containment protocols have failed. 3 of our deep space listening posts detected human quantum signals last week. They're not just reaching into space, they're reaching into realities we barely understand. The chamber erupted in concerned whispers as new data streamed across the displays. Human experiments with quantum entanglement had begun affecting particles across impossible distances. Their primitive space probes had started exhibiting properties that defied known physics. Their dreams, monitored through their neural networks, showed increasing connection to cosmic consciousness. We face 3 options, Supreme Commander Axis continued. First, immediate full-scale invasion with everything we have. Second, attempt diplomatic contact while we might still have technological parity. Third, complete withdrawal from this sector of space, leaving humanity to whatever they are becoming. Science Director LYX, the Empire's leading expert on evolutionary patterns, activated a new holographic display. Before we decide, you need to see this. The display showed a complex pattern of human development across multiple dimensions, technological, biological, spiritual, and several that defied classification. They're not just evolving, LYX explained, her voice tight with both fear and wonder. They're steering their own evolution. Every challenge we've presented, every test we've attempted, has been incorporated into their transformation. They're not just adapting to the universe, they're adapting the universe to themselves. The evidence was undeniable. Human children had begun dreaming in quantum equations. Their artists were creating works that affected probability fields. Their scientists had started developing theories that didn't just describe reality, they changed it. Most critically, LYX continued, we've detected signs that they're aware of us. Not just our presence, they're aware of our nature, our technology, our very mode of existence. And they're preparing not just to meet us, but to transcend us. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had encountered thousands of species, conquered hundreds of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. Humanity wasn't just another civilization to be conquered or avoided. They were something new in the cosmos, a species that had somehow learned to direct its own evolution, to transform itself and its reality at will. Admiral Kex, veteran of 100 campaigns, spoke next. We thought we were studying them. But with each test, each observation, we've been providing them with blueprints for transcendence. They took our quantum signals and turned them into evolutionary catalysts. They transformed our tests into templates for their own metamorphosis. The final data streams showed something that shattered the Empire's last illusions. Human consciousness had begun exhibiting patterns that suggested they weren't just reaching for the stars, they were reaching for something beyond physical reality itself. Supreme Commander Axis raised his hand, silencing the chamber. We must make a decision not just for the Empire, but for the future of galactic civilization itself. Humanity is not a threat to be conquered or an ally to be courted. They are a force of cosmic evolution that we barely understand. The vote was unanimous, but it wasn't what anyone had expected at the beginning of the session. The Empire would not invade. They would not attempt contact. They would do something unprecedented in their history. They would become students. The final directive was encoded into the Empire's deepest protocols. Earth was to be designated not as a threat or an opportunity, but as a phenomenon to be observed and learned from at a safe distance. The directive carried a warning that would echo through the Empire's archives for generations to come. Humanity is not a civilization advancing toward galactic status. They are a cosmic force awakening to itself. Do not interfere with their metamorphosis. Watch, learn, and prepare for a universe that will be fundamentally changed by what they are becoming. As the chamber emptied, Supreme Commander Axis stood alone, watching the holographic image of Earth rotating slowly in the darkness. In all his centuries of service, he had never felt smaller, or more hopeful, than he did in that moment. Humanity wasn't just changing themselves. They were changing the very nature of what was possible. And the galaxy would never be the same.